drive it, push it, tow it to Bennett Chevrolet for a minimum $8,000 towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. Got a good trade? Well, if we're paying a minimum $8,000 for total junk, imagine how much more you'll get for a good quality trade. Looking for new? There's no beating Bennett, because unlike other dealers, we're not selling over factory sticker. And there's 0% available financing. Plus, if you're stuck in a lease, bring it to Bennett. We can get you out early. Any make, any model. And remember, Bennett will buy yours even if you don't buy ours. Stop in for a quick quote. No pressure or obligation, because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid based on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevrolet, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
With all the sports we have, every time of the year is the best time of the year.
And the crowd just buzzing with excitement.
On 97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Monday after a wild sports weekend, Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank at Seattle City. You had 5 Game 7s in the NHL playoffs this weekend, 2 in the NBA playoffs, and they couldn't have been more different, that's for sure. So we'll get into that. Bryan Toporek from the NBA podcast. He's also the co-host there, and he writes about the NBA for Forbes Sports. We'll talk with him about the NBA playoffs. The conference finals are set. Of course, you hear all of it right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Game 1 of the Celtics versus the Heat is tomorrow night. Game 1 Wednesday night. We have game 1 of Warriors versus the Mavs. So the full NBA playoffs here on your home for the Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, the NBA playoffs, Sunday baseball, and more. 97.3 ESPN FM. But there's so many things to cover right now. It's just, there's so many moving parts, and we're going to try to squeeze it in here. I'll also get to the Phillies at some point this hour because they deserve some recognition. You're talking about a team that won 5 out of 7 games on their road trip. I think most people would have been happy if they won 3 out of 7. They won 5 out of 7, and it feels like people are like in disbelief over it. So we'll get to the Phillies as well. But I got to start with the Game 7s this weekend because I never thought in my life I would see 2 more pathetic outcomes in the NBA playoffs in a Game 7 in my life. You know, you had 2 teams that went into their series as the favorites to win it in the Bucks and the Suns. And neither one of them seemingly were able to do anything right. Anything right yesterday. One of the worst Game 7 shooting performances of all time. You know, we always talk about the Rockets game where CP3 was on one leg and guys like Eric Gordon and PJ Tucker couldn't hit the broadside of a barn and they lost to the Warriors. The Bucks were just as bad yesterday. 4 for 33. They couldn't hit any threes. Meanwhile, Boston was just bombs away. I mean, I never thought Grant Williams could hit 7 threes in a game. Neither did you. It was very disappointing to see the season end that way for the Bucks because you know how hard those guys work. You know how hard those guys play. You know how passionate Giannis is. You know how you know that team and that series would have probably been a lot different if Chris Middleton was available. But man, you saw everyone on that team not be able to hit a shot all night, all afternoon long, I should say. And the Celtics basically were for one night were the hot team. And in a series where Jason Tatum was inconsistent and you had to get a couple of massive performances from Al Horford of all people to save Boston's season. They're in the conference finals now for the third time in the last 7 years with a second different coach. Remember, the first time was Brad Stevens. Now it's Ime Udoka against the Miami Heat team that just screams, we're coming for your lunch pail. We're coming for your lunchbox. We're stealing your lunch money. We're going to kick you in the teeth. We're going to steal your car. Like, this Heat team has got a bunch of nasty dudes on. And I mean that in the good sense. They got a bunch of dudes who just don't got no fear, got no worry. They're coming for you. And I'm looking forward to this Celtics Heat series because I think you're going to learn a lot about both teams. How real are both of these teams when it comes to what they preach? You know, Boston has been living on this wave of defense and three-point shooting. And they were able to find a way to win it in the last series against the Bucks. Can they keep doing it against Miami? It's a huge question because Miami also plays great defense, but Miami's team is not purely built on three-point shooting. Their team is built on Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo wrecking havoc on the offensive end, and that havoc opens up opportunities for other players like Tyler Hero and such. So can Miami make Boston lose maybe a little heart? You know, can Miami steal their soul a little bit in order to be able to win that series? Because we're hearing a lot in the last several days about toughness, okay? We heard the Sixers after the game they lost to Miami, and then the next day with the Daryl Morey and Doc were talking about they need to get more tough. They need more toughness, right? And you heard this weekend the Suns talk about we didn't play tough enough. We didn't play hard enough. We didn't give our best effort. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, you know, there's two teams right now left in these playoffs that nobody questions their toughness. It's Boston and it's Miami. And if you're somebody who likes to drop a wager or two, we're seeing the Eastern Conference playoffs not hitting overs. This feels as to be a knock it out, drag out defensive series. And it's going to be the team with the most, you know, the two tough teams, which one of their toughness is real and which one of it's a fugazi. We're going to find out this week and next week with Boston and Miami. On the flip side, man, the fact that the Suns just didn't have it. I mean, Shaq was saying on Inside the NBA last night that the Suns had a bad day at the office. The Suns players saying that they didn't do their job. Look, why can't we just say the Dallas Mavericks won the series? Why does it have to be, why did the Suns lose it? Why can't we give Dallas credit for showing up? This was a Dallas team that a lot of people were wondering who were the second and third guys for this team that were going to step up. Why can't we give credit to Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie for going out there and shining bright? Okay? This team was supposed to lose this series. They were supposed to be the sacrificial lamb for Suns Warriors showdown. And it turned out that the Mavs had no quit in them. You have a head coach in Jason Kidd who challenged his star player, publicly called him out for his defense and his offensive efficiency. And Luka accepted the challenge, stepped up to the plate, and did his job above and beyond. And this is an organization that basically went in with the theory that they were going to win with small ball. Okay? There's a lot of times that lineup on the court is Luka Doncic, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jalen Brunson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Maxi Kleber. That's not a tall lineup. That's not a lineup full of a bunch of big athletic guys like maybe a Milwaukee throws out there. There's times that Luka practically could probably be the setter sometimes with some of those lineups. But Dallas found a way to make it work, and I think we got to give them credit. And I think that, to me, the last two games of that series was less about the Suns losing as much as it was about the Mavs winning. I understand that everyone was talking about the Chris Paul, oh, he can't win these series. He keeps losing them. How about we give credit to Luka? How about we give credit to there's a video floating around out there where, Luka early in the game yesterday was handing the ball to the ref, and Devin Booker says, "I'll take that," and, hands it to the ref for the out of bounds play. And Luka just starts cursing up a storm, and he's got a look on his face like, I am going to kill you for being like a jerk to me. And it's almost like Luka's channeling a little Jordan there. Like, he found a slight. He found a perceived, something against him. And it was like, I'm going to kill you now. And when they asked Luka after the game, hey, Luka, did you know that you scored as many points in the first half as the entire Suns team? Cold-blooded just said, yup, and just had this evil smile on his face. And I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, man, Luka's coming to his own. And between him and Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie and Dorian Finney-Smith and Maxi Kleber and Jason Kidd pushing the right buttons, man, I can't wait for this Mavs-Warriors series because, listen, I don't think the Warriors are going to lose any games like the Suns did, because the one thing the Warriors have that none of these other teams in the Western Conference have, they have winning pedigree. Look, no offense to the Suns. They went to the NBA Finals last year, but they didn't win it. All right. The Memphis Grizzlies, they're an up-and-coming team. They haven't even won a championship yet. All right. The Denver Nuggets, yeah, they had the league MVP, blah, blah, blah. Well, what's Nikola Jokic won except for hardware for himself? His team has won nothing. There is one team that came into this postseason, which is why I believed all along the Warriors were going to get to the conference finals. The Warriors are the team that's been there and done that. You know why Draymond Green can twirl that towel around and party up with the Memphis fans? You know why Steph Curry can say the stuff that he says? It's because these guys have been there, done that. There's only one situation that has led to the Warriors at full strength losing. It was a Game 7 with LeBron and Kyrie. When they lost to the Raptors, we give Kawhi Leonard a lot of credit for that Raptors win. But if there weren't so many injuries on the Warriors side, are we really sure the Raptors win that series? I'm not fully convinced. So I think this Warriors team has a lot to prove. I think the Mavs are showing you that Luka is coming of age. And the winner of that series is probably my favorite to win the NBA title. Because no offense to Boston or Miami, I just think those teams are going to be so physical. They're going to wear each other down, and they're going to go into the NBA Finals just maybe not even healthy at all. I don't wish injuries on anybody, but someone's getting injured in that series. We'll talk more NBA playoffs coming up on the other side with Bryan Toporek, co-host of the NBA podcast and Forbes Sports NBA writer right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. You can text in at 609-403-0973 on the text board. You also can DM the show through the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. But I don't want to get too far along with giving the Phillies some credit. They won 5 out of 7 games. And Bryce Harper had an incredible weekend in Los Angeles. And that's even with him not playing the end of that series because he went and got that special treatment. Yeah. So for those who don't understand, the treatment that Harper got is, can I call it interesting? And I'm being nice about it. So apparently they take the platelets and the blood and the different things, the plasma out of your body. They spin it in this vortex machine to reconstitute it, and they inject it back into your body, and it's supposed to revitalize healing in your body. So apparently Harper is I'll do anything to get this thing to heal faster, including doing something weird like this, because that elbow must be bothering him enough to get that done. It doesn't look like it on the field because that dude is playing like a man on fire. The MVP at the next level for Philadelphia. Now, they lost the game yesterday. They blew a lead. And Gavin Lux, who got the game-winning hit for the Dodgers, made a very interesting point about Corey Knebel, his former teammate. And I hope the Phillies get that video, sit Knebel down, and explain to him, this is what people are saying about you. Gavin Lux said that Knebel throws his curveballs low and his fastballs high, and he just looked for the pitch high and tried to hit it as hard as he could. You literally have a guy on the other team who just gave the entire world the game plan for how to whip you. Knebel's got to change the game plan. I understand, look, okay, it's his former teammate, but Gavin Lux just put the game plan out there for the entire world to see. He just put the whole world on notice. This is how you hit this guy. That's a little problematic if you're the Phillies. Your closer's scouting report just got put out there for everybody to find out how to hit this guy. I mean, it's one thing to blow a lead and for half the bullpen to just not pitch well during this Dodgers series. And I mean, frankly, it is the Dodgers. They have an amazing lineup, so you can't be too mad about, getting knocked around by that lineup with that many sluggers. But for the bullpen's closer, the main guy, to get exposed like that on television in a post-game report by his former teammate, the Phillies got some conversations to have before they resume their homestand against the Padres on Tuesday. Yes, no Phillies tonight, no NBA tonight, no NHL tonight. It's an open night on the sports calendar. This might be a good opportunity for you to, maybe catch up on some of those shows you haven't been catching up on watching. Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on 97.3 ESPN. Yes, we will talk more NBA coming up next. Status of the Sixers organization, along with the NBA conference final set. Bryan Toporek from the NBA podcast joins me next here on Game Night with me, Josh Hennig, on 97.3 ESPN.
The NBA playoffs continue on ESPN Radio.
Now Butler nearly lost the ball, gets it back, spins, shoots, and hits.
The Eastern Conference Finals come down to the top two seeds. The top-ranked Miami Heat welcome the second-seeded Boston Celtics.
Tatum, wing left three. Another one.
It's a best-of-7 with a trip to the NBA Finals on the line. Game 1 of the Heat and Celtics. Coverage begins tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
Listen to the NBA playoffs exclusively on 97.3 ESPN.
You finally got that new car, so you called your insurance company.
Your call is important to us. Please hold.
We are the tippy top workshop insurance.
You ended that call with their jingle stuck in your head. Then you called NJM.
Thanks for calling NJM Insurance. This is Claudia. Let's see if we can save you up to 25% on your auto insurance.
No jingles or mascots, just great insurance. Visit njm.com for a quote.
Hey, I'm Ariana. A little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Spicy Southwest salad is when I take a bite, it's like, wow, I'm getting a punch from the roasted corn. I'm getting a kick from the spicy chicken. It's just great.
Hi, this is Tori. A little thing I love about the Chick-fil-A Cobb salad is the avocado lime dressing. It adds to the chicken, the bacon, and the roasted corn. It takes the salad to a whole nother level.
Order a salad for delivery on the Chick-fil-A app today. Real guests paid for their testimonials.
COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too. If you feel symptoms, even if they're mild, you should test fast. Test positive and at high risk for severe COVID-19? Then act fast with authorized oral treatments that can be taken at home and must be taken within 5 days from when symptoms begin. COVID-19 moves fast, and now you can too by asking your healthcare provider if an oral treatment is right for you. Learn about a treatment option at treatcv19.com. This message is sponsored by Pfizer.
New message. Hey, girlfriend, it's Carol from jury duty. We never actually spoke, but I saw you ordered the same hoagie as me at lunch. What are the chances? Anywho, I heard you just got a boat. We should totally grab some hoagies and take it out for a spin.
When you get a boat, you also get new friends. Make sure Progressive's one of them and get coverage today for as little as $100 a year.
Do I want to feel the wind in my hair? Guilty as charged. Oh, seriously, let's ride on your boat.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Annual premium for basic liability policy not available in all states.
Dell Technologies wants to celebrate all your hard work with these Small Business Month specials. Get great value offers on powerful laptops, desktops, and servers with Windows 11 Pro starting at $499, plus top monitors and docks, all with easy financing options through Dell Financial Services. It's the perfect time to upgrade so you and your team can stay secure from anywhere. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL. That's 877-ASK-DELL to refresh your business tech with these Small Business Month specials. Dell recommends Windows 11 Pro for business.
What dealer wants to approve you if you clear $350 per week?
Who is Matt Blatt Kia?
What dealer will pay off your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth?
Who is Matt Blatt Kia?
Correct. And don't forget, you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
We're going to get to some text a little bit later in the show. Dan and EHT, Mike and Summers. I'll get you guys text in just a bit. But I wasn't expecting to start here with Bryan Toporek, the co-host of the NBA podcast and Forbes Sports NBA writer. But Bryan, I need a little clarity from you because I just had someone text into the show, basically on a very, very long rant that apparently I am being ignorant because I am picking the Miami Heat to beat the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. So is that an ignorant take on my part?
I wouldn't say it's ignorant. I mean, it's not like the Celtics are 100-0 favorites. You know, there are odds for the Heat to win this series. That the Celtics are favored, and I think deservedly so. And I'm leaning the Celtics in this series. But there are definitely outcomes where the Heat could win. Like if Jimmy Butler's the best player of the series, then the Heat have a fighting chance.
Well, look, first of all, I think it's more than a fighting chance. I think people overlook the fact that, first of all, Milwaukee didn't have Chris Middleton. That's a huge part of this conversation. You know, Chris Middleton was the shot maker. He was to Giannis what Kyrie was to LeBron when they won the title together. You know, LeBron, he was the MVP, but Kyrie was the guy hitting some of those clutch shots, and that's what Middleton was. You took him out of the game, and what happens in Game 7? That's the second worst three-point shooting game I've ever seen in a Game 7 by Milwaukee yesterday. 4 for 33. I mean, you're telling me if they don't make another 4 threes yesterday, that maybe Milwaukee is in that game in the fourth quarter? I mean, when you talk about the make or miss league, it's not like Boston went in there and whooped up on Milwaukee. It was just that literally everyone in Milwaukee couldn't hit a shot yesterday.
Yeah, I think my concern, Miami is a very different matchup for Boston than Milwaukee was. So, Miami doesn't have Giannis, as great as Jimmy Butler is. I think Boston has the defensive personnel to really give Jimmy trouble in the half court. And we've seen Kyle Lowry has now been officially ruled out for Game 1. He's recovering from this hamstring injury, played in 2 games in the Sixers series, did not look right at all. I don't think at any point, if he does come back in this series, he's going to be right. So where does Miami generate points in the half court outside of Jimmy Butler is my biggest question. And, maybe Bam Adebayo is the answer, but Boston has Al Horford and Robert Williams and Grant Williams to defend him as well. So I think Boston's defensive personnel matches up well against Miami's stars. So you're right. Maybe it does come down to Miami just needs to shoot a ton of threes and, hopefully pray for math to win out.
Is there a possibility that maybe Boston might come into this series tired? I mean, they just went 7 games with Milwaukee. I'm not saying that's the reason why they're going to lose, but is there a possibility that maybe Game 1 Miami wins convincing and all the pundits on TV will overreact the next day? Because, Miami's undefeated at home in the postseason. And by the way, when Vincent starts, Miami's undefeated as well. So take that for whatever it's worth. Maybe Boston gets off on a sore note, and maybe Miami tries to use that as like a mental edge or something.
In Miami, I mean, they only had to play like one half of the past 2 games that they actually played, so they're very well rested at this point.
It's just not Kyle Lowry, that's all.
Right. Yeah, I mean, look, they've got a ton of depth, and the good thing about Miami is that Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the NBA. He's going to tinker. He's got a bunch of potential options to try out. He's going to adjust on the fly. I think it's going to be a good series. I think it's going to go long. I don't think it's going to be like Heat in 4, Celtics in 4, or anything like that. I think we're getting at least 6 games out of this. I think I'm just focused like so heavily on how does Miami create enough points in the half court, but you could probably make the same argument for Boston because they've got Tatum and Brown, but other than that, like if Al Horford isn't knocking down shots, if Grant Williams isn't knocking down those corner threes, they like the Heat still have Butler, Tucker, and Adebayo. Both of these teams are going to switch everything defensively. So it's, which of these teams can find the weak link first? My concern for Miami is that Boston doesn't have a weak link defensively. So, against the Sixers, we saw Jimmy Butler was really hunting mismatches against Tyrese Maxey. Anytime Maxey got switched onto him, Butler just took him right to the post and had an easy bucket more often than not. That's not going to exist against Boston. Like Peyton Pritchard is your best bet, but how often is Jimmy Butler going to be aligned on Peyton Pritchard? Like, so
probably never.
Right. So if, I don't know if Robert Williams is going to start or if they're going to keep starting Grant Williams, but like either way, let's say Grant Williams starts and they've got Smart, Brown, Tatum, Grant Williams, Al Horford as their starting lineup tomorrow night. There is not a mismatch for Jimmy Butler to hunt. So that I think Boston is well coached. They're going to go under on screens. They're going to dare Jimmy Butler to shoot from deep. To his credit, he's been knocking down those shots in the playoffs, unlike they did in the regular season. So, I think they're going to just trust the percentages on that one and trust things will, play out in their favor over the course of the entire series. But I don't think they're going to let him get anything easy. And if he's not manufacturing offense, can Tyler Hero get something going? Oladipo, I think, will be a big key to the series as well.
You mentioned the coaching. I want to ask you something about that. I was thinking about this earlier today. Brad Stevens got this team to multiple conference finals.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's in the front office. Is there almost a part of you that looks at Ime Udoka and says Brad Stevens found the one guy that he knew was a better coach than him and got him to come in here?
I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far because I think Ime has done a great job this year, but I think Brad Stevens did a great job while he was their coach too. It's, I don't know who was better or worse. It's hard to make those judgments outside of the like very top few coaches in the NBA and very bottom few coaches. Like there's a group of 20 and it's, good luck separating them. I think Ime deserves a ton of credit. Like that, it's just amazing that the Celtics are here considering where they were in January, where it seemed like their season was about to go off the rails. We started having there were a couple weeks of should they trade Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown talks going on leading up to the trade deadline. They were like a 500 team. He got them to buy in, focus, put all of that aside. They go on this incredible second half run. So I think he deserves a ton of credit, and I'm excited to see how this series plays out because I think Boston is deservedly the favorite going into this series, but you're right. What if Miami does win game 1 or wins game 1, game 2, and then, Boston has to win 4 out of the next 5? It'll be interesting to see how they respond to that pressure.
Bryan Toporek, co-host of the NBA podcast, also covers the NBA, writes about it over at Forbes Sports and Fansided. Joins us right now here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN at B Toporek on Twitter. The other abominable game yesterday, you had 2 game 7s in the NBA. They're both blowouts. The NHL has 2 game 7s. They both go to overtime. I mean, talk about 2 totally different worlds going on in sports. And then tonight, nothing is on. It's like whoever's idea to schedule this way, they're dumb. They're just dumb. I'm sorry. To have all of what we had this weekend and have nothing today just feels like somebody failed at life, honestly, doesn't it?
Yeah, and if the Sixers and Heat had gotten to a game 7, that also would have been yesterday. So we could have
Right.
had 3 game 7s yesterday.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Sixers did not.
Well, we will get to the Sixers in just a bit, but I want to get to the teams that are actually playing first. I want to respect, I want to stay in the land of the living, and then we'll get to the dead. Okay. That was a horrible analogy, but whatever. So I never once focused on Chris Paul losing another series and all that stuff, but why aren't we talking enough about the Mavs, Brian? I mean, to me, like Jason Kidd literally called out his superstar, saying he's got to play better defense. He's got to get Brunson involved in the offense. On live on a press conference, everyone saw it, and Luka's like, "Yep, give me that challenge."
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible performance from the Mavericks, and Jared Dubin had a piece of 538 today about kind of what the Mavericks did specifically in terms of hunting Chris Paul on defense. So Pat Bev has been making the ESPN tour today, just slandering Chris Paul up and down.
Yeah, Chris Paul can't guard anybody. He's a traffic cone, I think he called him.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Mavericks did kind of treat him that way, and there's a clip in Jared's piece where it really, it's like just a minute long of them really, really targeting Chris Paul as much as they possibly could, getting him on switches with a bunch of different defenders, and try and take advantage of that. I think my question going into a Mavericks Warriors series is one, who guards Luka, obviously, and there's not really.
Draymond?
Yeah, but I mean, if they switch everything too, like Luka is gonna get time on Steph, potentially is gonna try. He is going to mismatch hunt. So if they are switching, he is going to try to get Steph switched onto him, or Clay, who was a great defender in his prime, but isn't quite that player anymore. I don't think Wiggins has a chance. I don't think Jordan Poole has a chance. My podcast co-host Morton Jensen. We did our conference finals preview earlier today. He brought up Jonathan Kuminga, the rookie, as a potential, this guy's obviously not going to stop Luka, but he's going to have 6 fouls to give, and maybe for 10 or 15 minutes for as long as he could stay on the floor. Maybe you just throw him at Luka because he at least has the size and the athleticism to pose a challenge. But that's a big concern for the Warriors in this series. Like, they don't have a good Luka answer. And, Otto Porter, I don't know if he's going to be healthy for game 1. Andre Iguodala, I don't know if he's going to be healthy for game 1. That's 2 key guys off the bench who they could throw at him. But if they don't have those guys, or if they're limited, that's 2 more options off the table for the Warriors.
The Kuminga thing is funny because it reminds me of, remember the Celtics series with Isaiah Thomas, and the Sixers thing was, well, just throw TJ McConnell out there at him. He'll get 6 fouls. Remember that was the theory obviously Kuminga's more athletic than McConnell is.
Right.
But I feel like, or it's like, remember, it was the final, what was it, 2018 Cavs with Durant was on the Warriors. And the idea was, we'll just throw Cedi Osman at Durant, let him get 6 fouls and see what happens. I feel like these throwing guys in there for fouls usually doesn't work though.
Yeah. I mean, it's a Hail Mary effort, but they might have to resort to it at some point in the series, especially if Draymond gets in foul trouble. I mean, that's going to be one of the big keys to this series is, if Draymond picks up a couple of early fouls, not only is that going to be just detrimental to the Warriors' entire defensive scheme, but especially against Luka, they have no one left at that point. I mean, maybe Wiggins, that's probably who starts on him.
Probably.
But I don't necessarily think he's gonna have a very good time in that matchup. So we'll see. I mean, I'm interested in that. And then on the other side, Jalen Brunson, they couldn't really target him in that Sun series, but can the Warriors target him and make him a liability on that end of the floor? I don't like if he's the primary defender on Steph Curry, I don't like that matchup for him.
The other thing interesting to me is that you mentioned Brunson. This dude is a stud. I mean, this guy, between him and, well, first of all, the Mavs lineup of Brunson, Doncic, Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Maxi Kleber is probably one of the most strange things I've ever seen work in basketball, because in NBA 2K, it wouldn't work. In the real world, it does work. That lineup against the Warriors, if they have Steph, Clay, Draymond, Wiggins, and Poole, I mean, that's going to be the most ridiculous basketball we've ever seen. The Eastern Conference is probably going to be like 82-80 games, and the Western Conference is going to be like 140 to 135.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that Deadpool lineup, Deathpool lineup, whatever you want to call it, had a ton of success against.
Those are two different Marvel characters, Brian. You better keep
that's
it
true.
straight.
That's true.
Deathpool is Deadpool's daughter. You got to keep it straight here. All right.
Okay. My bad. They had a ton of success with that group against the Nuggets in round 1. Not as much against against the Grizzlies in round 2. But I mean, that was what Mike Malone was saying in round 1. Like, we aren't going to be able to stop that defensively. We just need to keep up offensively with them. And you're right, that Mavericks, whether it's the 3 guards or you put Reggie Bullock in there for Spencer Dinwiddie in case Dinwiddie is not shooting lights out for a night for a change. I mean, that's got some real potential to keep up as that 5-out look, which is another key factor to this series. Like, that might be the antidote to this 5-out. John Hollinger of The Athletic just wrote something about it today he called it Spaceball. If that's the antidote, just play a Spaceball lineup versus a Spaceball lineup. You're right. Like, it's just going to be a 3-point barrage because these teams are both among the league leaders in terms of the playoffs, 3-point volume and 3-point efficiency.
Bryan Toporek is the co-host of the NBA podcast. You can download it, like it, subscribe it, give it the 5-star rating. Him and Morton Jensen co-host that. He also covers the NBA and writes about it for Forbes Sports and Fansided at @Toporek on Twitter. All right, we'll get to the Sixers now. I wanted to get to the other stuff first. First of all, is Patrick Beverley just auditioning to join the Sixers in the free agency? Like, I feel like the only guy he didn't criticize today was James Harden. So it's almost like he's like, hey guys, I'm out here. You talked about toughness. Come get me.
If he hadn't just signed a 1-year extension, I would think so, but he is under contract for 1 more year with the Timberwolves. So maybe he's trying to get traded.
Under contract doesn't mean anything. You know that, Brian.
That's true. Maybe that's the Danny Green trade that they're lining up. No, I don't know. I think he's just got some loyalty to James Harden from back in the day.
I just think it's funny that I've heard about toughness for about 6 days in a row from everyone from Embiid to Tobias Harris, to Daryl Morey, to Doc Rivers, to now everyone on the Suns roster complaining after the game. And Pat Beverly talked about everyone soft on TV for like 5-6 hours today. It's like, I can totally see a scenario where it's like Patrick Beverly and PJ Tucker are both on the Sixers next year. I would not be surprised.
I would if that happens, I would love it because I mean that is certainly the toughness that they were clamoring for.
I mean, they both were on Houston when Morey and Harden were there, so I mean,
I guess so. I mean, if you could find a way to make it work, I am all ears.
Well, I think the way you make it work goes back to what Brian Windhorst said this morning on ESPN Radio. Folks heard it here on 97.3 ESPN. I mean, Windhorst has this theory, and I'm not saying Windy's wrong. I'm not one of those people, okay? Because he tends to be more right than he's wrong with this stuff. He claims that Daryl Morey is going to get Harden to sign for less than the max. Mm-hmm. If that's true, doesn't that change all of our conversation about this offseason?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how much less than the max, but I wrote about this at Forbes over the weekend. If he picks up the player option, they're almost certainly going to be in the tax. Not only over the tax, but they're going to be too close to the apron, which is going to be a little bit around 155 million. So they'll only have the taxpayer mid-level exception, which is $6.4 million, and then just veteran minimum contracts. And that's the only way they can round out their roster. We'll see. They owe their first round pick to Brooklyn, potentially. Brooklyn can defer that to next year. So we'll see what happens there. But otherwise, they're pretty limited how they can build out their roster this offseason without any trades if Harden picks up the option. If he does not, and he takes a slightly smaller starting salary next year, even like $40 million, which is sounds pretty good to me. $40 million considering how he played in the playoffs, especially, like that's still probably an overpay. You can get up to the non-taxpayer mid-level, which is 10.3 million. You can also have the biannual exception, which is 4.1 million. So, James after Game 6 said, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help the team win, or something along those lines. If that is true, then what it takes would be him opting out, signing a sub-max deal, and opening the door for them to use these exceptions, or as Wendy went on ESPN later today, and Ramona Shelburne had this the other day too, alluded to, the Sixers might not be done star hunting either.
Yeah, Brett Brown, star hunting.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Brett's not here anymore, though. Here's the thing. So that word, go get a star, that was the wording that's been used.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean it's a superstar.
Sure.
So like, I know it sounds like I'm like splitting hairs here, but like, I think people automatically think Bradley Beal, right? But it's like, it doesn't have to be Bradley Beal. It could be John Collins, for example. You know what I mean? Like, how many times did I have to hear about this offseason? Collins doesn't want to be in Atlanta. Collins might get traded. Collins and Tobias Harris's contracts line up. Like, I've had to hear that like a gazillion times, like 6 months ago. What's changed? Nothing has changed as far as I know. Because, I mean, let's be realistic. When Andrew Bynum landed in Philadelphia, we all were confused for about a week how the deal even happened. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Daryl Morey had all these phone calls, kept notes on all these calls, and is right now like working on some psychotic 6-way deal that you're going to be writing about in a 3-part series at Forbes Sports next month.
I know. I had another article planned for tomorrow about the draft, and now this Wendy thing came up, and now I'm going to have to explain this 3-star scenario tonight. So check that out. It'll be up at Forbes tomorrow, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, it would take, basically it all comes down to this, like everything starts at Harden. So if he picks up the option, the 3-star thing is almost completely a non-starter, and like you're going to have to trade Tobias Harris, and to get off of him and bring a star in, you probably have to give up Tyrese Maxey, which personally I would not do that unless I don't know which star I would do that for. Like Beal, I don't think so. Even Dame, I don't think I would do it for a Dame Harden backcourt when both of the guys are in their 30s and probably on the decline of their career. So the alternative is trade salary dump Tobias Harris somewhere, ideally before the new league year starts. So OKC has come up as a potential landing spot. Right. And then at that point, not, assuming Danny Green is off the books, which is a huge bummer that, Danny Green got hurt. He had $10 million non-guaranteed next year. You just have to assume he's probably going to miss most or all of next season. I think just because of that, they're going to have to waive him. Him off the books, Tobias off the books, James Harden for now, just, he will be re-signed, but without his cap hold, they're only at about $58.4 million. So they've got almost $63.6 million to split between Harden and one other star. So it all starts with Harden, and you have to say, you have to agree on the number of years and the amount of money that you're willing to give to him. And then, at that point, James should just say, like, Daryl, you structure it however is best for the team. I don't care. It's the same amount of money either way to me. So if you want to front load the deal, you want to back load the deal, whatever the case may be, do whatever is best. So, if he's willing to take 4 years, $120 million and start below $30 million, yeah, the Sixers could hypothetically carve out a max cap slot this summer by trading Tobias Harris. How realistic that is, I don't know until we see, just how serious Harden is and like how much of a pay cut he's willing to take.
All right. 2 questions off of that, then I'll let you go.
Yeah.
How much are we factoring or not factoring in that Harden doesn't have an agent, and that him and Daryl Morey apparently are BFFs for life? So, maybe this negotiation is not your normal negotiation in the first place.
Right. And I mean, who knows? Like, they might have had these conversations already. I'm sure they did to some
tampering
extent. I don't know what the exact, like, all of these NBA insiders have alluded, like, the max is not going to happen. You get 5 years, $270 million. It's just, nope, non-starter. But, how much less is he willing to take? Is it 5 years, $200 million? Is it 5 years, $150 million? Is it 4 years and a smaller amount? That's what matters. And that is the first domino that needs to fall. And then everything else can fall into place from there.
My other thing I was bringing up is, of all the things I've heard today, I'm starting to feel like, and I have no special insight on this. You tell me what you think, Bryan, because you read and follow even more than I do. I'm feeling like the hierarchy of things is Harris traded is the most likely. Then it's Harden signing for less money. Then it's Doc not being the coach next year.
I think Harden signing for less is the most likely.
Okay. That makes a lot of Sixer fans happy hearing that.
Yeah, well, again, just because there are only 5 teams right now out there with potential max cap space, and that's not like Harden max cap space. That's enough for a 25% max. Harden can get the 35. So no team out there has enough room to sign James Harden outright for a max contract this summer. You could maybe work a sign and trade, but how many teams are out there looking at him forcing his way out of Houston, forcing his way out of Brooklyn, playing lackluster in the playoffs this year, showing these potential signs of decline? They're like, yeah, I want to give this guy $200 million over the next 4 years. I don't think that market exists. So I think for those reasons, and he's got this co-star in Embiid, the MVP runner-up 2 years running, he's not going to find a better option moving forward if his goal is to actually win a title than staying in Philly. And if it means taking slightly less, so be it. You're earning $30 million in endorsements on the side. You can probably survive with 5 to 10 million less per year. So I think that's the most likely. The Tobias thing, I don't know. I mean, if they're going after a third star, they're going to have to move him. But other than that, I think it's going to be tricky. And I don't know how much you would have to give up to get off of him. And, other than the last couple games of the playoffs, I thought he played pretty well, all things considered. And since they're going to be so far over the cap either way, it doesn't really affect what they could do either way. If they can get the non-taxpayer mid-level because Harden takes slightly less, you don't really need to trade Tobias. It doesn't affect you one way or the other in terms of what else you can do this offseason. So I think that's probably the least likely. But then, that the Sixers have also said Doc is definitely going to come back. So I don't know whether that's true or whether it's just posturing to get the Lakers to try to pay up for him. But we'll see on that front.
I'm sorry, you brought it up, so I got to touch it on really quick.
Yeah.
If Doc becomes the Lakers head coach, then he's a hypocrite. Remember, he was the same guy who ripped the Lakers after Vogel got fired to the media. It's on record. He said he ripped the Lakers for firing a guy who won them a championship. That's what Doc said. He said more than that, but that's the gist of what he said. If he becomes their head coach, he's the biggest hypocrite in the world. I just don't think Doc. I don't see it right now. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Sixers want to fire him because he's got 3 years left on his deal and he's earning $8 million or so per year. So that's a lot of money to swallow. If he wanted out and asked the Sixers to release him from his contract, I don't know if they would say no to that. But I think they want the decision to be in his hands, not the other way around.
Gotcha. All right, Bryan Toporek at Toporek on Twitter, co-host of the NBA podcast. Like, subscribe, download, give it 5 stars. Check out all of his coverage of the NBA over at Forbes Sports at Toporek on Twitter. Bryan, appreciate you jumping on today. Appreciate you, basically handling all the curveballs I threw at you there.
Of course, anytime, Josh.
Josh Hennig here on GameNight. We'll get to your guys' thoughts and comments next. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. Mike at Summers Point, Dan and EHC, all you guys and more. We will get to you next here on GameNight with me, Josh Hennig, on 97.3 ESPN FM.
The NBA playoffs continue on ESPN Radio.
Now Butler nearly lost the ball, gets it back, spins, shoots, and hits.
The Eastern Conference Finals come down to the top 2 seeds. The top-ranked Miami Heat welcome the second-seeded Boston Celtics.
Tatum, wing left three. Another one.
It's a best-of-7 with a trip to the NBA Finals on the line. Game 1 of the Heat and Celtics. Coverage begins tomorrow at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
Listen to the NBA Playoffs exclusively on 97.3 ESPN.
With GMF financing approved credit excludes Corvette. This just in. Right now, Bennett Chevrolet is paying a minimum $8,000 for any trade. That's at least $8,000 for any trade, running or not. Bennett is doing it again. Want $8,000 for that old rotted out rat trap? Just drive it, push it, tow it to Bennett Chevrolet for a minimum $8,000 towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. Got a good trade? Well, if we're paying a minimum $8,000 for total junk, imagine how much more you'll get for a good quality trade. Looking for new? There's no beating Bennett, because unlike other dealers, we're not selling over factory sticker. And there's 0% available financing. Plus, if you're stuck in a lease, bring it to Bennett. We can get you out early. Any make, any model. And remember, Bennett will buy yours even if you don't buy ours. Stop in for a quick quote. No pressure or obligation, because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid based on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevrolet, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Progressive presents today's to-do list for your dog.
Check front door. Check window. Check other window. Rest chin on ground. Look into distance. Bark for no reason. Check front door. Check window. Check other window.
Your pet has a very busy schedule, so it's up to you to make sure they're protected. That's why Progressive Car Insurance covers your pets for up to $1,000 if they're ever in a car accident with you.
Chase shiny ball. Lose shiny ball. Find shiny ball. Eat shiny ball.
Get coverage for your pets with any auto policy from Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage for cats and dogs included with the purchase of collision coverage and subject to policy terms.
Hey, is this line secure?
Franco's cybersecurity firm secured a contract, and that's all we're allowed to say.
We have a green light on hiring.
He needs web security professionals with a military background.
3 teams of 4, 24-hour rotations, but Protocol Zulu is on a need-to-know basis.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard, so you can stay organized and connected all the way to the hire. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
O'Reilly. If your vehicle squeals or grinds when you slow down or just isn't stopping like it used to, you may need new brake rotors and pads. Now through May 24th at O'Reilly Auto Parts, get 15% off a set of Brake Best Select or Import Direct brake pads and 2 rotors. Restore safe braking and save money now at O'Reilly Auto Parts or order online at O'ReillyAuto.com. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
All right, Josh Hennig wrapping up the show. As I promised, your text 609-403-0973 in your DMs on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. I'll start with Dan and EHT. Dan has a couple things to say. First of all, about the Sixers, he said the best thing that could happen to the Sixers is if Harden, Harris, and Doc both all go. Cassell becomes head coach and get role players around Joel Embiid and Maxey. Well, first of all, that's a bit of an extreme take, Dan EHT. You know, Harden was probably injured, so who knows what he would have looked like if he was healthy. Harris is the guy that's beloved in the locker room. I know that a lot of fans don't like him, but he's beloved in the locker room. The players love him. And if you lose him, you have to replace him with a higher level of leadership. As I mentioned in passing to Bryan Toporek, get a PJ Tucker, trade for a Patrick Beverly, go out and get some dudes who, you know, are going to have some cachet in the locker room, because if you lose Harris, you really have almost no leadership in the locker room without Danny Green there. So, and the Doc Rivers, look, they didn't lose the series because of Doc Rivers. They may have been in deficits because of Doc Rivers, but they didn't lose the series because of Doc. They lost the series because Harden had nothing left in the tank in the second half. Now, if you want to say that Harden needs to go, okay, but saying Harris and Doc need to go too is not a solution. And role players around Embiid and Maxey, basically what you're saying is the Sixers with them would be no better than the Nuggets. You gotta treat Embiid better than they treat Jokic out there in Denver. Embiid has sacrificed so much for this organization. Don't leave him on an island. And then Danny H.C. said about the Phillies, I don't know what you were watching with the Phillies, but I saw the bullpen is horrible. They may be worse than last year's team. Listen, they're not worse than last year, okay? To me, and this is where when the fan blames the coach or the manager, I kind of have to vibe with you on Girardi. I'm starting to wonder if Girardi and his coaching staff and the analytics people in the Phillies organization know what they're doing when it comes to the bullpen. I think that they're misfiring at times when it comes to these moves, and I think that's the problem. I don't think the bullpen itself is the problem. I think they're putting the wrong guys in the wrong situations. As promised, I did want to get over to Mike over in Summers Point. Mike says, Celtics have been to the Eastern Conference Finals 4 times in the last 6 years. Well, I double-checked, Mike. It's actually 4 times in the last 7 years, but I digress. Tatum put up 46 in the Game 6 facing elimination. Embiid isn't built like that to not pick the Celtics over the Heat, who swept the Nets and defeated the defending champs convincingly. Is pretty ignorant. Well, it's not ignorant because they barely beat the Bucks. They beat them in 7 games. Celtics, everything Sixers fans thought the process was supposed to be. Look, I said this during Mike Gill in the Sports Bash. The process was incomplete. Okay, you can't make an analogy between the Celtics and the Sixers. There were 2 teams built completely differently. The Celtics have refurbished that roster multiple times. The biggest difference, the Sixers have had 4 different GMs in about an 8-year period, and the Celtics have had 2 GMs in the last 20 years. Come on. I live in the real world. Sorry. Have a great night, everybody.